Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 13 Pro Max and compare it against the iPhone 14 and see which particular phone is the better one for you. Now, the thing I would definitely tell you about both these devices is that they're both very good. There's not really one device that I'd look at as being like significantly the craziest better one in each way, but I'd probably tell you the iPhone 13 Pro Max might be the better one for some people, but the iPhone 14 is the newer one. So let's go and see how both of these compare. If you want to pick up either one of these phones though, links will be down in the description. Get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now starting off with the outside of the iPhone 13 Pro Max, this particular phone came out in 2021, and on the front of it, it's giving you a 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. It's a very, very good panel. This was one of the first promotion displays that Apple threw in inside of their phones, and I was a very big fan of this phone when it first came out, and I'm still a very, very big fan of this particular device. I think Samsung, I don't think Samsung made this panel, but I think, Apple and Samsung, when they team up, they make really good device panels, and this thing is no exception. It looks very good. I'm a very big fan of this particular phone, and it definitely has a better panel overall than the iPhone 14. The iPhone 14, though, is giving you a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. The thing kind of to keep in mind with this particular device is that it is kind of like a limited type of experience when it kind of comes down to it. It's a standard 60Hz display, so there's not really anything else super crazy going on here. Again, standard 60Hz, not 120Hz like the iPhone 13 Pro Max, and this is kind of where we start getting some pretty big differences. Like, you're probably going to want the phone that's going to be giving you a better experience, and that is kind of the problem that you're getting here, because the iPhone 13 isn't really going to be giving you that, the iPhone 14 is not really going to be giving you that experience, where the 13 Pro Max is basically going to be giving you that. But the 13 Pro Max is a significantly bigger phone with a way bigger size screen, so that might be kind of an annoying thing to kind of deal with within this particular phone. So that's kind of another thing to kind of keep in mind there. Now, also with the iPhone, with both these iPhones, flat sides, lightning ports at the bottom. On the back side at the back sides of both of them, you're getting that standard glass back on the iPhone 14, which I think is great. I love having that standard glass back, and it definitely is a really, really cool thing going on for that particular phone. With the iPhone 14 Pro Max, you're essentially basically maintaining, or the iPhone 14, you're getting that standard glass back, but the 13 Pro Max has that frosted glass back, which I'm way more of a fan of. I love having frosted glass backs, and that is by far, again, one of my most favorite things going on for that particular device as well. So with those things, that kind of gives you a quick understanding of the differences between these two. The iPhone 14 is also giving you a dual camera setup. The 13 Pro Max is giving you a triple camera setup, LiDAR sensor on the 13 Pro Max as well. Beyond that though, you're really getting wireless charging, MagSafe capability. Everything is basically the same between both these devices, and there really isn't like a crazy big difference when it comes down to either one of these devices, if I'm being honest. So when it comes down to that kind of covers it up here. In terms of the price tag side, with the iPhone 14, you are going to be getting a tiny bit of a cheaper priced phone than the iPhone 13 Pro Max. The 14 when it first came out cost $799. The 13 Pro Max when it first came out cost $1099. So that in and of itself is another pretty big price difference, I would say. Like, if you're wanting a phone that's going to be costing maybe a little bit cheaper, then a device like the Samsung Galaxy, of that year is probably going to be cheaper than this one. But the iPhone 14, because it costs cheaper when it first came out, it's going to just be cheaper in the long run, probably for the most part. But the 13 Pro Max is still a very good priced phone too. And the price difference between these two is really only maybe $50, maybe like that in the used market. And maybe sometimes you can get a 13 Pro Max for slightly cheaper. But as at this point, that's kind of what you're working with from a price tag standpoint. From the camera side of things, this is also another very interesting thing. So with the iPhone 14, you're getting a dual 12 megapixel camera setup on the iPhone 14. It's a 12 megapixel wide and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. With the iPhone 13 Pro Max, you're getting a triple camera setup here. 12 megapixel wide, 12 megapixel telephoto, then a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera on that particular phone. Now, the thing going on for this particular device is that with both of them, again, you're getting 4K at 60 on the front and the back of both these devices, which is very, very nice. I really like having that type of capability, and this in and of itself is another really cool thing going on here. With something like the iPhone 14, I think this device is, still a very good camera, and in some ways it's probably better than the 13 Pro Max, but the iPhone 13 Pro Max is, I would say, a very, very good type of, device for the most part. Like with this one, you're getting very good build, you're getting very good, camera quality. Like, there really isn't that much to complain about here when it comes down to that particular phone. Now, is it a perfect device? Clearly not. Neither one of these are perfect. You're not getting 8K capability on the back of both of these, and the newer iPhones definitely are giving you better experiences, but I still think both these devices are giving you very solid devices in general, and I really don't have that much to complain about here when it comes down to these two devices. So from that end of itself, I think both these devices do a really good job, and I don't know if there's one that's the worst camera here, but I think the iPhone 13 Pro Max is probably the better camera when it comes down to it. The iPhone 14 is still very good, but the iPhone 13 Pro Max is probably the way better one as far as I can tell. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there too. In terms of software and longevity, this is kind of the more confusing aspect about this particular device. And the problem, not the problem, but the thing I would keep in mind about the iPhone 13 Pro Max and the 14 is that they both are basically giving you the same exact chipset inside. So I do think this in and of itself is a very, very big thing to keep in mind. With the iPhone 14, you're going to be getting that A15 body chip inside, 13 Pro Max, the exact same chipset. So with that being said, if you're going to go through and pick up a phone, you probably wanted to, when we're talking about longevity, I would probably argue that both these phones are going to be lasting around the exact same time. So there really isn't going to be a situation where one phone is going to be lasting way better or whatever like that. I think both these phones are going to be lasting around the same time. And I do think that in and of itself is a very, very big thing to keep in mind. Because if you're going through and picking up sort of a device, you probably want it to be as, like I said, as long lasting as possible. And that's kind of what's going on here with this particular phone. So with both these actually. So they're probably going to be lasting around the same exact time. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. Now, on top of that, from a performance side, both these phones are very similar when it comes down to the performance side as well. With the iPhone 14 Pro Max, with the iPhone 13 Pro Max, you're getting the A15 Bionic basically with that, the 6 gigabytes of RAM. And the iPhone 14, you're basically getting the exact same type of phone. So realistically speaking, whenever you're using one phone or the other, you're basically going to be getting the same exact type of experience, which I think is a very, very big thing to keep in mind. With the iPhone 14, the main advantage of this particular phone is that you are, able to go and get a device that's going to be giving you a pretty, good experience between both, which is really nice. I mean, Genshin Impact, big, heavy, intensive games, they're going to be giving you very, very good experience, which is very nice. With the iPhone 13 Pro Max, I would say the main advantage of this particular device is the fact that you are going to be getting that ProMotion display. So things are just going to naturally feel and perform better, which I think is actually really nice. And I do think this in and of itself is a very, very big, cool thing going on for the iPhone 13 Pro Max. And like I said, if I'm going through and if I'm picking up one of these types of devices, the iPhone 13 Pro Max is the one that I think might be just overall better because of that ProMotion display. And that also kind of comes down to the battery life size as well. I mean, the iPhone 13 Pro Max is going to be giving you a significantly better battery life with a way bigger size battery on that device over something like the iPhone 14. So from that sense as well, like why would you want to go and buy something like the iPhone, 14 when you can buy the 13 Pro Max for a little bit more money and get that bigger size battery? So when it kind of comes down to it, I genuinely am just a little bit kind of, it's not really confusing, but if I'm going to go through and pick up one device, I definitely would say that the iPhone 13 Pro Max is probably the device that I would look at as probably being the better one in almost every single way. This is the phone that I think makes a lot more sense for people to go and buy. And, it's not the best phone in the world or anything, but I definitely do think between these two, I'd rather take the year before's flagship than the year after's like mid-tier device. So just keep that in mind. I really don't think you can go wrong with either one, but if I'm going to pick up one over the other one, I definitely do think the iPhone 13 Pro Max is probably the better one in 2024 than the iPhone 14. So take it as you will, but that's kind of how I see both these phones holding up as of this point. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.